This video is sponsored by my.com, the creators of Conqueror's Blade. Conqueror's Blade is a free-to-play MMO with tactical action where you create a warlord and then battle to take over the world via huge online battles where you control troops and overtake enemy castles. If you're interested to try it, there's a link in the video description, and I'll also have it pinned below if you're like me and too lazy to bother to read video descriptions. And I would recommend going through that link instead of its Steam page, as I've been told you get some extra in-game loot, which is pretty nice. Conqueror's Blade is created by Booming Games, a Chinese-based video game company, and launched globally in May of 2019. Total War fans will undoubtedly have seen Conqueror's Blade pop up on other channels, as we are decidedly its primary audience. Personally, Pixelated Apollo's coverage of it last year really got me interested to try the game, and there were a couple really interesting looking articles on PC Gamer that made me say, hey, that looks cool. You know, I have 2 jobs and kids, so I frankly haven't had a chance to play it, and this was an easy excuse to do so. As for some reason, the creators of Conqueror's Blade contacted me and asked if I wanted to make a video on the game, so I can only assume they haven't actually watched my channel or they would never have made that offer, but you know, now it's no take backsies. So here's what a weekend of Conqueror's Blade actually looks like. I'm playing during the Chinese New Year celebration, hence the fireworks in the background, and you'll notice from my ping up there at the top that the servers are actually pretty good, so you don't have to worry about any kind of lag spikes when you die. Definitely can't blame them anyway. First-time players are immediately thrown into the middle of a massive siege battle. It's like the opening tutorial level of pretty much any adventure game, and does a great job explaining how the controls work and how you move around inside the world. WASD moves, and then you can also just move around. You'll notice that you can actually have a troop of men follow you as you go, which is really the major dynamic of Conqueror's Blade. It's not just you going up and smacking around a bunch of guys, it's you plus your unit of 30-something dudes. Now, there's a lot more tactical nature going through with this, as you'll see later on in the game. There's archers, spearmen, and cavalry. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different variations, so you're literally leading a unit of men, and when this combines with 15 other player characters, you turn into basically armies. The opening section also goes a ways to show off the different formations you'll see for more advanced troops in the game, like the turtle formation you see there on the right, and the ability to climb walls and engage in duels. At the top of the ladder, you get your first real taste of combat, which involves clicking the left mouse button and using one of 5 buttons along your keyboard. If you've played any MOBAs like Dota 2 or League of Legends, it's the basic QERT, where each of these has a special ability, with your T button being your big whambo. And you can't just sit back and hold down the mouse button. You have to click every time you want to swing and make sure to kind of get that timing down to really go through stuff. Right click blocks, but you'll notice I'm not very good at blocking, and the first thing I did is switch to a class that didn't require me to do so. The combat itself is very responsive, and I immediately felt like I was, playing something like Dynasty Warriors. You're rolling around, hitting stuff, and it responds exactly like you would expect a game like this to do so. Now, the crux of the game and how you really want to get ahead is fighting other heroes. Now, this guy is obviously an AI, but I quickly figured out that the best way to fight someone is to try and get around behind them. There isn't a lock-on that I can tell, so you do have to keep moving and positioning to try and attack them. If you've played a game recently like For Honor, it's sort of similar to that, but with a little more of a MOBA feel. After this intro sequence ends, you are presented with a series of questions, a la Kingdom Hearts or Mountain Blade, and these questions go on to decide the attributes of your character. Now, I nearly always play, during my first playthrough of any sort of RPG game, a high-strength character with a 2-handed sword. I didn't even know if that was an option yet in this game, but that is immediately what I was going to build, because that's what I like to play. Hit things really hard and, try not to get hit. Once you assign your 3 primary abilities, you're taken to the character creation screen. And while it's not very robust, it is visually interesting. As usual, I spent far too long going through their menus and looking at all their options. The first thing that I learned is that if you like to usually make your characters ugly, fugly, or anything other than a 25-year-old fashion model, you will be out of luck here. The models in this game are ridiculously attractive in a pan-global sort of way. It's probably one of those curious parts of playing a game developed in China, but you'll notice that even the options clearly designed to be European still have a hint of Asia about them. And the hairstyles, likewise, while cool, ride that kind of Eastern-inspired line. though the skin tone options are somewhat limited and don't exactly cover an entire global spectrum. But overall, their options are still far nicer than anything I've been able to create in Skyrim by myself. The only thing that really breaks this medieval fantasy is when you're required to sign your name on your travel pass, which means enter your character's name. So I was like, oh yeah, I can enter like a super historic name, but it was already taken. So just know you may have to get a little creative with the spellings here, just like you would in other MMOs, as this game is pretty popular. From there, it's on to the training yard, where you get to select your character's class. Now, in Conqueror's Blade, the game is divided into 11 different types of character. These characters are defined by the weapon you choose. Each of these weapons then has its own special little MOBA abilities down at the bottom, so they play differently. So even though there's the Nodachi two-handed sword, it has a life drain attached to it, whereas your glaive weapons is going to be more damage-based, your long sword and shield is more defensive based, and you have 2 daggers, which are like super quick attacks and poison. There's even different kinds of ranged, with a short bow, a long bow, or even a musket, and each of these also have different abilities associated with them. So you can see how these create very, very different styles of play very quickly. And as usual, I just went straight for the two-handed sword because that's what I like to do. I read a lot of Berserk as a kid, and I still really like that anime, so every chance I get, I do two-handed swords. And it played exactly like I thought it would, which is awesome. It should. It's fun. So after a quick spar, you then take a couple swings at people, use your different abilities. Q is normally a sweeping attack, E is directional, R allows you to regenerate some health through a lifesteal, and T is like a super stabby move, which is very directed as well. You'll notice I made short work of this guy. And though you would think it'd be easily possible to beat the training guy time after time, I found that I was really bad with other weapons, like the longbow here. And I should point out that I hadn't quite learned how to roll yet. You can double tap the arrows and get out of the way, but I clearly had not figured that out at this point. Though later on, I did get pretty good at headshotting with that gun and then rolling that guy out of the way again. From there, you learn the basics of troop movement and then are asked to pick one of 4 kingdoms to become a part of. Each kingdom has a specialized unit that they offer. In this case, you can see Demen's archers, arquebusiers, cataphracts, each one clearly having a different style of play that is going to encourage you to participate in as you get further on in the game. And learning how to use each unit is clearly important in this game. As you'll notice, you can actually form a pike wall and enemy cavalry will charge into it and die, which is just freaking cool. For me though, the main bulk of my time was taken up by doing the various battleground options. You have obviously an AI training camp, field battles, which work something like domination matches, and siege battles, where it's you either defending or attacking a fixed position. And it's through these that you will gain levels in the game, and these levels then give you points, which you then put into improving your 5 basic abilities, standard MMO stuff. You charge out of your spawn location, find the first flag, stand on it to capture the flag, and then rinse repeat until you have either all the flags or the enemy has all of yours. Now, complicating this is the fact that there are other enemy heroes that want to take these positions from you. So in my case, I sort of just looked for where everybody was congregating to fight and then jumped in to attack people from behind as quickly as possible. Because if they're not looking at you, 2-on-1 is always the way to fight. I don't fight fair in these games, I don't know why would you. It's not just about killing the heroes though, you also have to eliminate the units, because the units can also take these points. You'll notice there's sort of a back and forth push going on. And so you're in there swinging away like crazy, trying to keep an eye on your health down at the bottom, while also trying to go in and, do enough damage to drive the other hero back off of it. You can unlock new and advanced armors as you play, and that's actually some of the rewards you get for doing these battlegrounds, as a chance of a drop of a new piece of loot. There's also cosmetics, and the cosmetics are purchasable. As this is a free-to-play game, that's typically how they make their money. By the same token, they have what are called like battle packs, and these packs allow you to either level up faster or give you obviously tokens which can be spent to buy cool armor. Standard free-to-play stuff. And I am just including this clip because I did really well and was super impressed with myself afterwards, considering I'd only played a couple hours of the game at this point. So you roll around behind your opponent, hit him as best you can, and then keep on stabbing. Now, from what I read online, certain classes are more powerful than others, and I happen to have gotten lucky by picking Nodachi, which apparently is one of the more powerful ones. But frankly, I blame everyone else for not understanding that two-handed swords are cool. But even then, it's not like I'm invincible. You'll notice here in a second that the blue men start to slowly outnumber me, and there's just very little you can do about it. You know, you can't fight 4-on-1. But even then, I was surprised just how much one guy can do to turn the tide of what's happening in these battles. You know, I said this was the part where the blue guys surrounded me, and clearly I was wrong. This is the one where I just continued to go ape on everybody I came across. Yeah, hitting them from the flank, going in, you definitely do more damage from behind, which is also nice to know. And just trying to stay out of the way of the enemy to use that giant two-handed sword and give it space. I also have a special hatred for archers in games like this. I understand that a lot of people like those sorts of classes. You can sit back from range and plink, but I really like to get in the thick of it and just swing away, because especially if they have good fight mechanics in a game like this one does, you can feel the visceralness of getting in there and really getting stuck in. Yep, and there's the archer. I'm like, you know what? Everybody else has run off. All the other heroes are taking the next point. Not me. I'm going to go back and kill that archer because I want to. Dirty archers. That person probably rolled a stealth archer in Skyrim. Now there's two of them, and I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? Run away? Not this guy. Lifesteal, and then let's use my special ability to stab and shank. And I'm like, boom, boom, boom. No, I'm going to die. And I think, did they finally get me right here? Whew, got no health, so I'm going to run off and heal. I got this, right? So this game does have a healing mechanic, and you can see it as H on your hotkey right there. And so you can hide and heal, but you have to hold it down. It's not instantaneous. But even then, you'll notice it doesn't heal your entire health bar. So it's not like you can just run out and come back completely restored. And it's on a cooldown for a minute as well. So you got to really bide your time. But clearly my enemies were not fooled and were thirsty for revenge after me putting the whoop on them for the last 2 minutes. And by the battle's end, all the resources had counted down, and we had victory. And somehow, you'll notice that I had an S ranking, which if you have ever played a JRPG is the best type of ranking you can get, which sort of startled me. And not only that, I actually led my team for the most kills and most contribution to the battle. I guess what I'm saying is, though this video, you'll notice, doesn't have any super high level siege play, for many of you that are just starting out in the game, this is what you'll spend the first couple of days doing. And especially for someone like me who really just gets a chance to play on the weekends, I was shocked that I could jump into a free-to-play game, not having paid money previously, and top the leaderboard in matches. So I was pleased as punch, and it definitely made me want to keep playing. But the game itself has a lot more to offer than that. I mean, as you get in higher level, you can join big raiding clans and go out and siege far cities and build up power bases and take over the map. I mean, you can get to some truly epic battles by the time you get to the end of it, so that it always feels like you have something else to progress to. And that's something that's missing from a lot of modern MMOs. And it actually just entered Season 2, which introduced a whole new faction, which is Mongolian and steppe inspired, to give a whole new range and class of units to play around with. So it's definitely a game that's evolving and trying to bring in new ideas. So after having looked at this, if you want to give Conqueror's Blade a try, I have a link down in the description below and also pinned to the channel's description. And it doesn't matter if you go through Steam or the website, it downloads a separate launcher just like every other MMO does, because they have their own internal anti-cheat engine, so don't be freaked out about that. And if you do happen to sign up through the link, you get a cool gold helmet, 3 like little unit XP boost, you get a hero XP boost, and like a crazy like arrow launcher thing. None of which I actually got for myself, because like I said, I wanted to see what happens if you just sign up with nothing, and could you still have a good time? And for me, the answer was a resounding yes. So check it out, and I'll be giving away a free Dark Reaper collector's pack that they sent me that I didn't use, so I can give it to you guys instead. So put your comment below if you're interested, and tell me what you think of the game. If anybody has spent some more time with it and gotten to those upper levels, I want to hear about your experiences at the top. So thanks for watching this sponsored video from my.com, the distributors of Conqueror's Blade.